here with my backdrop as the Henry Morris Flagler Museum in Palm Beach, Florida. So, there were many visionaries in the history of Florida, but I'm going to focus on one whose impact on Florida was mainly the development of the transportation system was awe-inspiring. The impact Henry Flagler had was instrumental in the development of the transportation system in Florida and the Keys. He built a 100-mile long track completely over water, as well as developing the railroad system along the East Coast. Along the way, he built several hotels, including one with 450 rooms. Mr. Flagler's impact on the state was truly inspiring to many people who came after him. He developed a mere chain of islands to a tourist industry. At age 14, Flagler moved to Bellevue, Ohio, where he worked for a grain company which was run by his cousin. His salary was $5 a month plus room and board. When his half-brother offered Flagler a co-ownership in a salt company, Flagler quit the grain business. However, when the Civil War ended and salt stopped being in such high demand, Flagler got into a lot of debt. He bought 25% of the stocks for an oil company that helped guide the company to success. While that helped pay off some of his debts, Flagler still needed more money. He decided to re-enter the grain business as a commission merchant. Around that time, he married Mary Harkness. She was the daughter of the man who ran the company he was working for. Even though all but one of their 4 children died, Flagler felt very fulfilled during his time with Mary. During that time, Flagler also paid off all his debts. However, the happy times ended when Mary died. Not long after, Flagler married Ida Alice in 1883, who he lost to mental illness later on. They honeymooned in St. Augustine, Florida. During that time, he saw the potential Florida possessed for a vacation spot and how much farmers were going to love the land. He started construction on a 540-room hotel in St. Augustine right after their honeymoon ended, because Ida would not allow him to work on their honeymoon. Flagler then purchased and extended the existing railroad system, which he saw potential in that the current owner was not compelled to use. He then renamed the company the Florida East Coast Railroad Company because he was focusing mainly on the east coast of Florida. He put up hotels and key points along the way for railroad passengers and extended the railroad to what is now Miami. Having traveled the Keys on several occasions, by 1905, Flagler realized the value of the Florida Keys' tropical climate and the transportation possibilities. He saw how magnificent the beaches were, and how it would make a great tourist attraction, and how fantastic the sights were. He faced quite a few challenges with getting his train tracks across to the water of the Keys. However, Flagler told his crew, quote, "It is simple. All you have to do is put one concrete arc after another, and soon you will find yourself in the Keys," end quote. After 7 years and an estimate of $50 million, Flagler had completed a 100-mile-long track to the Keys. Flagler also had the foresight to put up hotels in strategic places where tourists would be most likely to stay. In 1912, Flagler was in his early 80s and in poor health. A train from Miami pulled into Key West Terminal and outstepped Flagler from his private and luxurious train car. He was greeted by cheering people, from dignitaries to citizens, and even the mayor of the Keys. Frail and blind, Henry Flagler stood there awestruck by the reception, tears streaming down his face. After summing up his dreams to the audience, Flagler said, quote, "And now I can die in peace," end quote. He did just that a year later at age 83, 1913. The railroad continued to bring thousands of passengers between Miami and the Keys for the next 2 decades. Though it was not rebuilt after a hurricane destroyed it in 1935, an author and an East Coast historian said, quote, "The Keys were, with the completion of the railroad, a completely different world," end quote. And I could not agree more. Henry Morris Flagler's impact on the Florida Keys was unforgettable. He was a true visionary.